The Mediterranean sun blazed over the dusty airstrip at Pantelleria Island, Italy. It was July 2nd, 1943, the 99th Fighter Squadron's 5th combat mission. The air smelled of fuel and sea salt. The men of Tuskegee had been flying escort for bombers striking German positions for weeks. But today would be different. The mission. Lieutenant Charles B. Hall, call sign Sugar 99, climbed into his Curtiss P-40 Warhawk, its engine roaring to life. The order crackled through the headset. Enemy aircraft approaching from the north. Within minutes, silver crosses appeared in the sky. Focke-Wulf 19s, sleek and deadly. Hall banked sharply and dove. He lined up his sights, his thumb trembled over the trigger. Then he fired. Tracer fire sliced the air. The German fighter erupted into flame and spiraled into the sea below. It was over in seconds. I saw the tracers enter his fuselage. Then it exploded. Lieutenant Charles Hall, July 1943. The 99th had scored their first confirmed aerial victory. But when they returned, celebration met silence. White officers dismissed it as luck. Newspapers barely mentioned it. Yet in that single moment, above the skies of Italy, history changed. The Tuskegee Airmen had fired the first shot in their battle not just against the Axis, but against American racism itself.
Long before the first mission, the Tuskegee Airmen trained in isolation, at a small base carved from Alabama soil. At Tuskegee Airfield 1941 to 1943, the air buzzed with heat and sweat. White instructors doubted them, mechanics mocked them, and local towns refused to sell them food or fuel. Yet still, they trained. They studied aviation manuals late into the night, tracing the blueprints of PT-17 biplanes and P-40 engines by candlelight. They endured endless washout drills meant to make them fail. Out of more than 900 cadets, only 450 would earn their wings. At the center of it all stood Captain Benjamin O. Davis, Jr. Silent and steel-eyed. A West Point graduate, he had survived 4 years without a single classmate speaking to him. Now, he commanded the squadron that would make America see him. We were fighting 2 wars, one against fascism abroad, one against racism at home. Benjamin O. Davis, Jr. In 1942, as they completed flight school, their families gathered by the runway, watching sons who were never meant to fly rise into the sky. The prejudice had built the walls, but their skill began to crack them.
After the brutal Battle of Anzio, the Tuskegee pilots had proven themselves in blood. But to truly change history, they needed better planes and a bigger mission. They got both. The 99th Squadron merged with the 332nd Fighter Group, forming the Red Tails, so named for the crimson paint on the tails of their aircraft. Their new mount? The sleek, deadly P-51 Mustang. The assignment: escort American B-17 and B-24 bombers deep into Germany. Keep them alive at any cost. Many bomber crews were skeptical. Some didn't want colored escorts. But that changed fast. When the Red Tails took to the skies, bomber losses dropped dramatically. Their discipline was unmatched. They refused to chase enemy kills. Their mission was protection, not glory. They never left us, not once. Bomber crewmen, 15th Air Force. The bombers began to call for them by name. Give us the Red Tails. They bring us home. By the end of 1944, the Tuskegee Airmen had flown over 15,000 sorties, destroyed 112 enemy aircraft, and earned 150 distinguished flying crosses. They had gone from an experiment to one of the most elite air groups of the war.
Early 1945, the skies over Germany were a storm of fire. As the Luftwaffe's power crumbled, it unleashed a new weapon, the Messerschmitt Me-262, the world's first jet fighter. Faster, deadlier, untouchable. The Red Tails were warned, don't engage, you can't catch them. But they did. On March 24, 1945, during a bomber escort to Berlin, 4 Tuskegee pilots, Roscoe Brown, Charles McGee, Edward Toppins, and John Pruitt, spotted a formation of Me-262s streaking in to attack. Brown broke formation, rolled his Mustang into a dive, and fired. A jet burst into flame, the first time in history a propeller-driven aircraft had shot down a jet in combat. He thought he could outrun me. He couldn't outrun skill. Roscoe Brown. The war was ending. Germany surrendered weeks later. And when the smoke cleared, the Red Tails had flown over 1,500 missions and lost fewer bombers than any escort group in the U.S. Army Air Forces. They had fought the Nazis and won. They had fought America's doubt and destroyed it. The war ended, but the struggle continued. When the Red Tails returned home in 1945, there were no parades, no welcome banners. Many still had to enter through colored-only doors, even in their uniforms. But history had already shifted. Their courage in the skies forced America to face its hypocrisy. In 1948, President Harry Truman issued Executive Order 9981, desegregating the U.S. Armed Forces. It was the first real step toward the civil rights movement, and it began with Tuskegee. Decades later, their legacy still soars. Astronauts, generals, and pilots, from Colin Powell to Guyan Bluford, all traced their inspiration back to them. We proved we could fly. Now, they can't stop us from reaching the stars. Tuskegee Veteran 1980s interview.